My name is Mark. I'm here with Crystal. We're doing the Journey Series podcast on Mark for Glory Advocacy Media. And today our special guest is Mr. Fishley, who's a comic book artist. He's going to talk a bit about his journey and what he's working on now. Hi, Fish.
Hello, it's good to be here. Good to see you guys.
Well, first we've got to get this out of the way. How did you come to be called Fish?
It is actually short for my first name, Fisher, but nobody calls me that. It has always been my name, and I did not realize it is as unique as it is. I mean, I'm not the only Fisher in the world, but apparently I'm one of the only ones that goes by Fish. And I'm real easy to find on Facebook because when you look up Fishley, it's me and a bunch of Korean ladies. So, if you get past the beard, you've gone too far. And it's worked out for me. And, I've always been a unique chap. So a unique name has fit real well with it. So I just steered into the skid. And everybody has always called me Mr. Fish, like since high school. So I went with it. Now it's who I am.
Also, a hit in the comic world as well.
Yeah, it does stand out. There was a fantasy illustrator that used to do artwork for like D&D, who I think's last name was Fish, and so he would sign stuff with this little skeleton fish, and I was so envious. But anyway, like I'm comic books, he's more fantasy illustrations, so we don't really cross over too much.
So let's start at the beginning. Tell us a bit about what growing up was like for you from birth to now.
Alrighty. Like I said, my name's Mr. Fish. I'm a comic book artist. I have built a career around drawing comic books like the ones you see behind me. I've done I think about 40 books now in the last 4 years that I've worked on. I've built this career to work around my Tourette syndrome because I'm lucky enough to have a pretty severe case of Tourette syndrome. As a kid, I was undiagnosed, and my tics were a lot more mild back then. And, I just really, people thought I was just a weird kid that did some weird things. And every once in a while, my Tourette's would get bad enough that I would miss some days of school or miss a week of school. I would go through all these tests at the doctor's office, and then I would do something weird. Like at one point, I remember my eyes crossed for a few days and I couldn't get them uncrossed. And the doctor would be like, oh, well, see, obviously he's faking it for attention. And so I would get sent home and I'd be in trouble and my mom's yelling at me and I've skipped school and wasted everybody's time and money, and a single mom taking a kid to a doctor that many times wasn't easy. And after a couple of decades of being told that you're faking it for attention, that really starts to mess with your head. And I remember times when it started getting really bad in my later 20s that I would be shaking so bad. I was home alone and I was shaking so bad I couldn't get off the commode by myself. And I was just screaming at myself in anger. Who could you possibly be trying to impress? There's nobody home. But I had even started to believe it myself after a while. And eventually in my late 20s, it got so bad that I couldn't work anymore and I couldn't get around without being on crutches. And eventually by 30, I ended up in a wheelchair. And most days I couldn't walk, talk, or see. My eyes will clamp shut when I get to ticking. My jaw will clamp shut. At the time, I used to shake violently all the time, never stopped shaking. I can't imitate it now because I shook so bad for so many years. I gave myself so many concussions that even if I shake my head no too hard now, I will give myself another concussion. So I have to be very careful when I act out how it used to be. But it was bad. And, I was seeing a new neurologist and he kept telling me, it's not this, it's not Huntington's, it's not MS, it's not Tourette's because I don't swear or bark like a dog. And then, praise God, the local weatherman did a special on Channel 11, coming out over a couple of day period doing a special about Tourette syndrome. And somebody on our team has Tourette's. And Ed Buckner, the local weatherman, came out eventually and said that he had Tourette syndrome and talked about it. Well, the first night they had a professor on talking about Tourette's. Everybody in church calls me and tells me, "You've got to go look at this. You've got to watch this. You've got Tourette's. This guy on TV looks just like you." And I was like, "I don't have Tourette's. I don't swear. You don't have to do that. I tell you, just watch it." So I go online, I watch the clip, and I will be danged. This dude did look exactly like me. He was a big, giant guy, big, long beard, thrashing violently in his chair as he talked about what Tourette syndrome is and how it was a neurological disease that you're born with and it affects the dopamine receptors. And it's basically like short circuits in your brain and mixed signals coming across. And he explained that only 10% of people have the subcondition coprolalia that causes inappropriate outbursts and stuff, which I'm lucky enough to have. I just don't tend to yell out swear words, but to my chagrin, yelling out yellow rubber tugboat in the middle of Walmart counts as inappropriate as well. So I'm lumped in the category. And so I go to a new doctor. He walks in the door, sees me thrashing on the table, and he's like, "How long have you had Tourette's?" And I was diagnosed like that. He sent me to a specialist in Texas to confirm the diagnosis, and it's done. 30 years old, I finally have an answer to what I've been going through my whole life. So I start to study it, I start to research it, find out as much as I can. I found this exhaustive list of tics, and it had all of the big things and all of the weird things like doing somersaults and spitting on the floor and slapping other people and all kinds of crazy things that sometimes happens with Tourette's. And then it got down to this list of really minor little things. And it had holding your breath and stuttering and, rubbing your nose and wiping your mouth and tugging on your clothes and all these things that I had done my entire life. And suddenly my whole life starts to make more sense. And then it talks about rage issues and stuff that tends to come along with Tourette syndrome. And then all of a sudden, all my high school years made a whole lot more sense. And then I start to study and meet more people online with Tourette's and realize that everybody now is getting diagnosed with ADHD and OCD and autism spectrum disorder as well. And as I started looking at these things, the rest of the picture of my life started to get colored in and things started to make sense now. And I realized that's why I couldn't make friends as a kid. That's why everybody else seemed to have some cheat sheet on how to make friends and interact with people. And when I would come in with my obsessive knowledge about superheroes, they would get really bored really fast. And they didn't like when I would argue with them that they were playing superheroes wrong because Batman can't fly. And, and I couldn't understand why being brutally honest with people all the time would make them upset. I could not wrap my head around the amount of social lying that people do to grease the wheels of social interaction. That was
Right.
really hard for me to learn to cope with. And it took me literally into my mid to late 20s to learn to mask well enough to be able to fit in. And I eventually got really good at it to the point now that the mask is basically the only personality that I know anymore. It's the only personality my wife knows. It's very rare that it slips. And I don't even know who the fish was underneath anymore because I'm so used to masking and putting on a show and being, "Hey, it's your Uncle Fish." But it puts people at ease and it makes interactions go
Right.
smoother. It makes jobs run smoother. So.
Well, that was definitely one of the stigmas that we would like to break. We should not have to be uncomfortable to make other people comfortable. But
Wouldn't
as
that be
you're
nice?
talking about, yeah, but as you're talking about, that's exactly what you've had to do.
Oh
And
yeah.
that's really
I didn't have any choice, and I didn't know that I had a neurological disorder. I didn't know that my brain was wired differently. I figured it was this hard for everybody, but everybody else just seemed to have figured it out faster than I did. And you know, it took me a while to get there, but I finally got it, and now It's all I really know. But you're right. I mean, we shouldn't have to do this, because the same thing that makes my brain work so much differently also makes me really creative. It makes me the fastest artist in indie comics. I pump out books at rates that amaze my clients. Like, I literally startle them when they start getting page after page after page after page. And I wouldn't be this fast, I wouldn't be this creative, I wouldn't be this good a writer or as good a friend or be as funny as I am if my brain didn't work the way it did. And, I shouldn't have to hide who I am for people to be able to accept that.
So it's really awesome that you found that outlet to help you, but what about it specifically helps you, you manage your Tourette's better when you draw?
Having this job, like, I could be doing anything. I could be stuffing envelopes.
Right.
I
Right.
could be doing all kinds of different little things, like talking on the phone, not so much, because I can't always speak. Sometimes I stutter real bad. Sometimes I yell in the phone. Not good. Just holding a phone to my head stresses me out. But when I'm drawing comics or even writing comics, it makes all those different corners of my brain fire at the same time, and it's using up like all the processes in my brain. It's using my imagination, it's using my creativity, it's using my geometry and math skills and the technical side of my brain, trying to figure out how does this complex object look in 3D space, and when I rotate it, how will that look in perspective? And how big will this guy be in perspective when he's 2 blocks away from this guy? And I have to figure out all these different things at the same time. I'm making sound effects, I'm seeing it in my imagination, I'm acting it out. Boy, I'm just shooting laser blasts all over the living room when I'm
Sounds
working.
complex.
But it's using my whole brain, and when my whole brain is focused on something, the ticks subside. Like, it's too busy to let the misfires happen very often. And that can be drawing comics, that can be playing video games, but nobody will pay me to do that. It can be having a good conversation. So, like in a lot of these interviews, I will tick less until I get to talking about the ticks, or I see myself in the little picture, and that'll make me tick a little more. But good conversations will occupy my brain for a long time. And then when I'm done, all those ticks that have been held off all that time come barreling out. So when I get done working for the day, and I work long days, I'm usually pretty much done at that point. Like, there are a lot of days I work 16 hours a day, which is a lot. But a lot of times by the time I get to the evening and like I take a break to eat dinner, I can tell I'm so ticky by that point. I'm not going to be able to do much else in the family. I'm not going to be able to get up and help with things. I'm not going to be able to fold laundry. So I go back into being hyper focused on what I'm doing and try and make a little money until bedtime. And at least I can do something beneficial there. And then once that hyper focus is gone and I get up to go walk to the bedroom, oh, it's a dance off. I am shaking and jerking and yipping and yelping, and the dogs are trying to figure out what's going on. And my grandbabies are staying with us, and they think it's funny. They love copying the yelps, not realizing that sets me off and makes me do it more. And now they think I'm playing with them, and they're too young to get that. Please don't do that.
Yeah.
It's kind of ironic to me that lots of the superheroes you probably grew up loving and stuff, they had their own challenges or the things that made them different, made them freaks, if you will, right? But then those ended up being their greatest abilities or of the path to really redemption, I guess.
And that's the kind of thing that I like to add into my stories when I can. And up until now, like all but one of the 40 or so books I've worked on in the last 4 years have been written by other people. Maybe I've co-written a little bit, because sometimes they just give me a rough plot and I do everything else. But most of them have been written by somebody else. I get to add in lots of stuff but I don't get to like change the characters or change the way they work and things like that. That's why I'm excited about my book, Green Zones. The first issue is out and going out to backers soon. I just finished the second issue. I just started on the third issue. I'm really excited about this world because there are people with superpowers in this world, though it's illegal to have superpowers. So you get shoved into these slums. But I like to look at superpowers as, how would it really be to have an ability like this? Like, to me, I can't imagine somebody with super speed like the Flash could live life in regular time and then just suddenly speed up and see at 300 miles an hour. To me, I would think like your nervous system would have to be running so fast all the time, like you've got super ADHD, that like the whole world seems slow. And like it's just mind numbing to have to stay there long enough to listen to somebody talk. Like, just write it down. I'll come back and read it later. Like I like to imagine how this stuff would work that way. And what would it be like if you actually had lightning, shooting out of your body? Because like one of the things with my Tourette syndrome is my nervous system is always on fire. Every nerve in my body is always screaming like it's got lightning running through it. And I like to think about that. Like, it would be amazing to be able to shoot lightning, but it would hurt. And, like you would have to get used to the pain and be willing, like, is this worth suffering for to do this or not? Like I love thinking through these powers that way and applying my experience as a neurodivergent creator and, apply that to these things. And it makes it so much juicier and more fun that way.
We also discussed the ways that to help people understand what makes them, what is the easiest way to help people comprehend so that they're more comfortable.
When I meet new people, especially like, if it's in church or something and we're going to be around each other for a little while, I don't bother introducing myself to everybody at Walmart. But like if we're going to be at church sitting side by side for a while or things like that, or we're going to be at a birthday party for a few hours, I like to introduce myself. And I don't start with, I have Tourette syndrome. I start with, hey, my name's Fish. I just want to let you know I have a neurological condition. And essentially, the wiring in my brain, the insulation's a little thin and it causes a lot of short circuits. So sometimes just random short circuits will cause my arm to jerk. Sometimes a thought goes through and what would be a thought switches paths and comes out your mouth. And sometimes I'll make faces or yelp or do weird things. It's just misfires in my brain. It's nothing personal. I'm not making faces at you on purpose. And, and then I explained that the condition I have is a hereditary condition I was born with called Tourette syndrome. And that way they're listening the whole way through saying, ooh, what is this interesting new condition that I'm going to learn about? I can act superior and tell my friends that I know about. And they listen the whole way through instead of hearing Tourette syndrome. Oh, he yells out swear words, and they cut off and they quit listening and they just start nodding. This way they listen the whole way through, and I can explain what my tics are. I can explain, what you're going to expect to see from me. And, I might get up and shuffle out of the room if it gets really bad so I don't disturb everybody. And then I explain that I have Tourette syndrome. And that has worked so much better. Like when I start out with, I'm sorry, I have Tourette's, I have had people yell at me and argue at me that that's not what Tourette syndrome is. I know what it is, and that's not it. And, I'm like, well, I didn't just bark at you for no reason, lady. I'm sorry. My neurologist says I have Tourette syndrome, but maybe better because you saw a TV show when you were 10. I don't know.
Well, we've also discussed that for you in general, just any disability, it's easier to explain and give kids new ideas about what disability is than it is to adults.
Oh man, adults are so set in their ways. And like when you've been building on a wrong foundation for 30, 40, 50 years, it's really hard to move that foundation and that understanding of what something is and how something works. But, you know, what broke my heart when I got online and I started becoming a Tourette's advocate, which oddly enough, I became a Tourette's advocate online because I couldn't do anything else. I was literally stuck in bed or in my wheelchair. And most days, if I could get one eye open and I could work one thumb, then I could get my little cell phone out and I could type around, and it might take me forever, but I could type messages out online and talk to people across the world when I couldn't even talk to my own family. And so I would spend my whole day online in all the different Tourette's groups, you know, on Facebook and stuff, mentoring people, giving people advice, giving advice to new parents when they're crying that their kid just got diagnosed. And I'd be like, congratulations, your kid is going to be awesome. And they're like, how could you congratulate me? Oh, dude, he is going to be so smart and he is going to be so creative and he is going to do stuff you would never imagine. Like, yeah, he's going to tick a little bit, but that's just our bodies burning off all the extra awesomeness. Like, he is going to do amazing things. And he might have to figure out some different ways to do a few of those things, but there's nothing he can't do if he puts his mind to it. Like, I can no longer sit at a drawing table with a giant sheet of paper and a brush and a bottle of ink and make beautiful lines like I used to do. I used to be able to paint a 16-foot pinstripe line barehanded like a laser beam. It was amazing. I can't do that anymore. But now I work digitally and I work out of my recliner, and I've made adjustments that let me work around my Tourette's, and I knock out work really, really fast. But you can do that. You don't have to give up. But in my work as an advocate, I kept meeting adults that had just been beaten down so bad when they were children that, like, grown women in their 30s, 40s, 50 will not go grocery shopping, will not get a job, won't, you know, go out and meet the neighbors because they're convinced that everybody's going to line up and start teasing them like they did in second grade. And I don't know how to break that. I don't know how to fix that when that's been set in your mind for 30, 40 years. I met a kid one time that just broke my heart. He was 19 years old. He had just gotten his GED. He was on disability. He was on food stamps. He was living in government housing, and he had given up on his life. There's nothing I can ever do. I'm never going to be able to get a driver's license. I'm never going to be able to get a job. I'm never going to be able to find a girlfriend or get married or have kids. My life's over at 19. And I was like, why is it over? It's like, because I have Tourette syndrome. I was like, well, what are your tics like? I blink all the time and I cuss like up to 3 times a month. And I'm like, dude, go get your driver's license and get a job, man. You can do anything. I know all kinds of places you can work in the back shop and cuss a blue streak and nobody will care. Like, I mean, maybe you don't answer the phones, but there's all kinds of jobs you can have and nobody is going to care if you swear 3 times a month. You know, nobody's going to care that you blink a little extra. But his dad told him he was broken when he got diagnosed at like 4 years old. And so he's broken. And there's no, I can't do anything. I am broken. And I was like, dude, you are chipped at best. Like, get up and get to work, man. You can do anything you want to do. But it just broke my heart because, like, I'm sitting here in a wheelchair, thrashing around wildly, you know, getting my kids to help feed me. And, you know, everybody stares at me when I go to Walmart and I'm zipping around in my little scooter. But by George, I'm zipping around having a ball and my kids are riding on the back and, you know, we're having a big time. And if I yell out something stupid, I'll just smile and wave and go on about it. And I tend to make lots of new friends at Walmart and it doesn't bother me at all. Like, if I'm sitting in the doctor's office waiting room and I start yipping and yelping, I introduce myself and apologize and usually make a couple new friends while I'm sitting there because they find me very interesting. Like, I'm not going to sit there and hide. I got too much stuff to do. And I didn't know how to transfer my spirit and my joy and my outlook onto other adults that have a lifetime worth of pain and stuff that they can't let go of. But I was like, if I could reach out to kids, maybe I can get to them before the world knocks them down. So the very first comic book I did, I actually have one right here because I just decorated my shelf, was a T-Man and Hyperstrike. And in this book, T-Man is the living embodiment of Tourette syndrome in the world. And when he activates his powers, he has the combined abilities of everybody in the world with Tourette syndrome. He has all of our motor and vocal tics, so he can vibrate so fast that he can bust through walls. He can scream with a million vocal tics at the same time and knock down giant monsters. But he also has our combined creativity and our combined brilliance and speed and strength, and he can lift tanks and he can outrun lasers. And like, he's this amazing character, and it's all based on tapping into all the things that make us amazing. And and I've got cameos in here from musicians and sports stars and comedians and all kinds of people with Tourette syndrome and scientists and stuff, that when he taps into those powers, you see some images of some of the people that he's getting energy from, to get smart enough to beat the bad guy. And it talks about how we're all tied together and how, we might shake a little bit, but we get so much more in the process that it's well worth, a couple of stairs. And in the story, this little girl, the evil scientist takes her Tourette's away to power his monsters, and she has to be strong enough to take it back after she realizes that, yes, she's not shaking and yipping in class anymore, but she's also not the smartest kid in math anymore. She's not the star in the art class. She's not the lively, loving friend that her friends have grown to know and love. Like, she's not Mia anymore. And she has to be strong enough to take that strength back. And then she becomes her own superhero. And just purely designed to inspire kids. Oh, my mercy. The letters and the pictures and the drawings and the videos and stuff I got from people around the world was just, it seriously was life-changing. Like, I scared my ex-wife so bad as she's driving down the road, and I just start bawling, and she's like, "Oh my God, what happened?" She thinks somebody died. And I'm like, "This is kid in England, and he wrote me a letter." I mean, I was just bawling listening to the letters that some of these kids wrote me, or this video of this little curly-haired girl just leaping on the couch for joy, just tears running down her face. She's so happy because she saw one of her tics in the book, and her tics were helping power T-Man. And I was not ready for that. It still gets me emotional, but I've got like several more issues ready to go in my head. But after that one came out, it did so well and got enough like small local attention that I've been busy drawing other people's books ever since. And, it became my full-time job real quick and paid my bills all through COVID. And, I figured for sure drawing pictures of muscle men beating each other up in their underwear had to be the epitome of non-essential work. I figured I was going to be out of work for sure in 2020. I had steady work the whole way through. Every time a stimulus check came through, I had a whole bunch new commissions in my inbox, and I was like, that was supposed to pay your rent, right? I will gladly pay my rent with it. I'm happy to pay but I'm just clarifying, like, you're good, right? And they're like, yeah. I want to get this. I need to get these pages. I want to get this book done. Okay, I'm your man. And I mean, it's been amazing. Like, after I got married to my lovely new wife, they moved a few towns over to move in with me in my house. And there was a period there from when she quit her last job and got the last check from there and started the new job, and their checks were behind. There was 2 months that I had to pay all the bills by myself for the entire blended family. And knowing I can do that, drawing pictures and funny books, was an amazing feeling. Like what started out as doing something just to try and inspire some kids and reach out to them ended up becoming an amazing full-time job. And now I'm blessed enough to be moving into doing my own book. And hopefully next year I'm going to be doing it full time and nothing else. And that's nuts. That's bigger than I ever could have imagined. And I mean, I still have Tourette syndrome. There's still a lot of days that I can't walk. There's still a lot of times I can't talk. There's still a lot of times that I'm looking out of one eye and, drawn. And I might have to hit undo a bunch of times because I'm, a little extra shaky today. But I'm still getting to live my dream. I'm finding ways to make it work. I'm not letting anything get in my way. Sometimes I've got to stop and just let today be a rough day, and that's okay. And I'll pick myself up again tomorrow and start over. But, it's an amazing life I got, and I love it.
All the stories you're working on, they're all on the website you told us about, right?
Well, my website, Mr. Fish Comics, has a lot of stuff leading you towards the Kickstarter that finished in April for my book, Green Zone. And I'm going to be updating it soon because we're going to be doing a new Kickstarter for the new book. Most of the books I've worked on are for various different small publishers. But if you go to my page on Facebook, Mr. Fish Comics, and I'm Mr. Fish Comics on all social media. But on my Facebook page, I have a post that has a list of just about every place you can find all the books that I've worked on for sale. I have to keep updating it because some of them take a few months to get out on the websites for sale and whatnot. But yeah, I've got lists there where you can find just about everything.
Awesome.
What else are you working on besides Green Zone?
Oh man, Green Zone's my baby, and that's what I'm working on for myself. And it's amazing to be able to write and illustrate, and the whole thing's mine. I just recently took on a colorist because it just helps speed me up, and I like his work. And it was hard to let go of that, but he does amazing stuff, and I love what he's doing, and I can't wait to see the new books come out. I'm also working on the small publisher that I signed with for Green Zone, Freestyle Comics. It also publishes a friend of mine's book, 5 Star, that I illustrate, and I'm working on the second issue of that right now, which is fixing to go to Kickstarter soon. And I also just completed a book with them, The Light Within, that's actually through, I believe it's the Ohio Arts Department partnered with us to do that book. And it's for their arts program in the juvenile detention centers. And it's to help inspire the kids that are in juvenile detention. And some of them honestly are in there for life. And it, encourage them to join up in the arts program and learn to discover their creativity and put those things to use better than just sitting around being angry all the time. Get some enjoyment and some excitement, learn some new skills and trades and things. Maybe you're not going to get out, but that doesn't mean that you have to give up. You can still, have an exciting life and be creative. And it was a really fun project to work on. I really like that one, and it's fixing to come out. I'm really excited about that one.
I'm sort of on the tangent there, talking about young people going to prison, and you talked earlier about that young man who you talked to was kind of messed up about what he couldn't do. It's amazing how we can either set up someone for life through school or as parents or whatever, set them up for life or totally wreck their life, like just by how we frame what things are and who they can be and who they can't be. And this is what a comic book artist looks like, or this is whatever it looks like. Doctors don't have Tourette's, or doctors don't have anything wrong, or lawyers or whatever, right? And then they set us up with these mindsets that, okay, now if we're diagnosed with something, we can't do these things.
Oh, I would have people all the time when I was working as a Tourette's advocate, like, well, you don't understand. You don't have it as bad as me. I was coughing all day at work and everybody was staring at me. And I was like, dude, I have not been able to speak for 3 days. Like, I've only been able to use 2 fingers all day today. Like, I couldn't get out of bed for the last 2 days. Like, I have not been able to get to the bathroom by myself in days. Like, I know it's like, well, how can you have such positive attitudes? Like, I choose to. It's what I choose to focus on. I could focus on, oh man, my life's so hard. Oh, I could be focusing on the fact that the battery's dead in my van right now. And oh, woe is me. Or I could focus on the fact that I'm having a great conversation with 2 new friends and we're talking about great things. I just got 3 pages done for the 3rd issue of Green Zone. I got to play with my grandbabies this morning. I made myself breakfast. These are all amazing things that I've gotten to do today. And a friend of mine was a pastor, and he told a story one time that I think about nearly every day. And I share this with just about everybody I can. And it's really about your outlook. And you are going to find what you go looking for. And you can take a buzzard and a hummingbird, and you can take them out to the same patch of woods, and you can release them both. And one of them is looking for sorrow and death and decay, and one of them is looking for joy and life and rebirth. And they are both going to hunt and find exactly what they're looking for. It doesn't mean that either one of them was right or wrong. It's just they found what they were looking for. And I am not going to choose to be a buzzard. I am going to choose to look for the positive. And sometimes that positive is really slim. Sometimes that positive is, thank you, God, for giving me a nervous system that works well enough to be able to feel this pain. I mean, like, sometimes it's thank you that I can breathe on my own. Like, sometimes it's very small things. But when I stay focused on the positive and the things that I'm grateful for, and focus on the things I can do and not the list of things that I've lost that I can no longer do,
Right.
that's still an awesome list, man. I get to play with my grandbabies. I get to love on my kids. I get to watch superhero movies all the time with my boys because there's superhero movies out all the time that they never had when I was a kid. I get to draw comic books for a living. Sometimes the clients are stressful. Sometimes the deadlines are stressful. It's long hours for not a lot of pay. I get to draw comic books for a living. Like, that is awesome.
I remember when we were kids. I don't know if you felt this way, but imagining how good comic book movies could be and having to put up with all the crap they put out in the 80s and 90s, right?
And it was so few and far between, and it got like locked into these, like, oh, Batman was successful, so let's make them all like Batman. They don't need to be like Batman. But I'm so joyous for the options that we have today. And some people might be sick of it, and we've had too many of them now, and blah, blah, blah. I will never get tired of seeing D-list heroes that I've loved my whole life finally getting to appear on a screen. That makes me so happy because I've always loved the obscure characters. And, forget about it. Like, the Captain Americas and the Iron Mans and the Black Panthers are all cool, but man, give me Hawkeye any day. And when I got to see Hawkeye with no superpowers on the Avengers, kicking butt and taking names, I was so flipping excited. That brought me so much joy. And everybody else is like, why is Hawkeye on the team? I was like, because he's Hawkeye. He's awesome.
On to that, we also discussed about Comic-Con. What is your experience at Comic-Con having a disability?
I love it. I love it. It gives me joy, and it feeds my soul in a way that's hard to get otherwise. I feed off of the interaction. I get to be a carnival barker and, be like, hey, you look like you're interested in comic books. Why don't you come over here and hear about my new book, Green Zone? Hey, look at you. You know what? scientifically proven that guys that buy caricatures of their girlfriends are 10% more likely to get lucky. Like, I love the whole carnival barker aspect, which is absolutely not like who I am, but it's such a fun thing to do. And I enjoy the interaction, and I enjoy the pitching and the selling and the talking. And like, I will go all day long, mostly riding this high of the energy, as long as the people keep coming. I don't even realize how bad I hurt. I don't realize how bad the ticks are. I don't realize how long I've been sitting on this hard metal chair with my bad back and my nerve damage in my legs. And then the show's over. And then that high starts to fall away. And then it's a race to see if I can get to the car before I seize up. And so, like, I've got to be strategic about what I take. Am I leaving the stuff there overnight the first night, or am I packing stuff up and taking it back with me? I've got to get it into something that I can get out in one trip, because I will not be able to make another trip back from the van after a weekend of doing this and sitting in a hard metal chair. And my legs are going to be so swollen, and my back's going to be killing me, and my nerves are going to be screaming. I'm going to be lucky if I get to the van and I can still drive. Sometimes I get to the van and I got to lay the seat back and take a nap for an hour or two and then get up and drive. But I love it. It's so enjoyable. It's such a great way to get your book out there in front of new people. I usually make really good money either between, now that I'm selling Green Zone, people are loving it. People are snagging it up. It's such an interesting idea. It's not a superhero book. It's completely different. It's following a group of superpowered genomes on their first shift on the police force, because they're trying to earn their citizenship back in a world where it's illegal to have superpowers. So if you get diagnosed to be a genome and they find out you have a superpower, you lose your citizenship, your rights, you get shoved into the ghetto. And if you want out, you got to prove that you're not a threat and serve the greater good for 5 years. So these guys have joined the police force, and they're woefully ill-equipped to be cops, but this is their only way to get a better life. And it's such a dramatic story, and there's such interesting characters, and people have really been enjoying it. But I'm also an artist, so I can do caricatures and I could do commissions and stuff on the spot, and that usually makes me a lot of money too. So it's a good endeavor. It's hard to pass up, but like, I could be here lately, the last couple of months, I could be doing a con a week. My body can't take that. I can easily do one. September, I'm doing two, because I got into Arkansas Comic Con, which is our biggest con in the state. And my publisher is doing a convention, and it's the next weekend. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to be in a lot of pain coming home from that last one. And my wife's going to be driving the whole way. And everybody's going to be looking at me, asking me why I put my body through this, but it's so much fun.
So, the tech cons I go to are usually pretty packed, and I know that Comic Cons are too. They have a lot of interest. But what about accessibility? Is that some big thing? Or are they still lacking in that, or what?
That can be a really tough thing. Like, used to, I had to take my power wheelchair with me when I went places. And a lot of times I would get there, and the path that they had given you between the tables was for like a skinny man or child to walk sideways through. My giant self can't get through, much less my wheelchair. I mean, I'm nearly 6.5 feet tall. And then you put my power wheelchair on top of that. No, there's many times we've had to move 4 tables to make me a path enough that I can get in. I saw a video from a major convention in one of the major cities where they had done a line of artist alley tables, and it was all the way from one wall to the other, tables bumped up against each other. So you had to go all the way down to the end and walk 60 tables down behind everybody and all of their stuff that they've got out, and their banners and their boxes of comics. 60 tables down to get to your table. There's no way I could have done that in my wheelchair. I mean, there's no way. now, luckily or unluckily, I've been doing so much better for the last few years that my wheelchair actually fell into disrepair and the batteries went bad and I got rid of it, because for a long time there, I didn't need it at all. The last con I went to, I kind of wished I had it because the building was gigantic. Like, I walk all around Walmart and stuff now. This is the largest interior I'd ever seen in a building. Like, I'm from Arkansas and this was Dallas, a giant convention center in Dallas. I had never seen such a big area under a roof before in my life. And this place was huge. Walking across that was a legit challenge. Like, walking back at the end of the night to the car, I wasn't sure I was going to make it, but I just kept stepping one foot in front of the other and hoping for the best. But most of the time now, I just walk it, or I'll take my little walker with the wheels on it that has a little seat. So if I get tired, I can sit down. And that's easy enough to squeeze in behind the tables and get out of the way. But like when I was in Dallas, I did not go to the bathroom the entire day because it was too far for me to be able to get to. And so I just sat there and, sometimes I got to do stuff like that, if the place is too big or whatnot, and I just, can't physically make it that far, especially once you pack it in full of people, because now it's just not walking that distance. It's walking in and out of all these people and getting stuck, in mobs where people are piled up around somebody's table. And I do really good walking. I don't do good standing. Like, I cannot stand still for very long without being in a lot of pain and getting really tipsy. Like, I fall down a lot when I try and stand up. So, like, I keep moving. It's like being on a bicycle. It's a lot easier to stay up when it's moving than just like standing still. And so, like, the idea of getting stuck in a crowd is like, nope, I'm not doing that. I'm going to sit right here. And, that's life sometimes.
So if people want to get hold of you, how did they do that, or how did they go about buying one of your books?
You can find me on any of the social medias at Mr. Fish Comics. And it's Mr. Fish Comics, not just Mr. Fish, because some guy, don't even get me started, did like 10 cartoons about a fish called Mr. Fish, and it has like all the Instagrams and stuff tied up. I'm not bitter. No, I'm not bitter at all. But anyway, it's Mr. Fish Comics. Usually I do most of my stuff through like Messenger on Facebook. I talk with most of my clients through there because most of my clients are on Facebook more because we're all the older generation. I'm on TikTok and stuff too. My email address is mrfishcomics@att.net. It's all Mr. Fish Comics. mrfishcomics.com is my website, and you can contact me through there too. And the website Go Mr. Fish, like go mrfish.com, will take you to, right now it takes you to my old Kickstarter. It will either take you to my Kickstarters or where to buy the books, one or the other. When there's a new Kickstarter, it's going to go there. When the books go up for sale, it goes there. And my publisher's website is fsknow.com, and that will take you right there. And all of the books that they have for sale are there. And Green Zone is going to be up for sale there soon. 5 Stars already up for sale there. And then a lot of the other books I've worked on are on Indie Planet, which does a whole lot of indie comics.
Okay. I have one more question I was thinking of. So it can go either way. Some people say, they're upfront when they're, say, looking for a job or talking to anyone, that I'm an artist with whatever disability, pick your disability. And other people fall in the camp of, well, I'm just an artist. I'm not going to tell you what I have because it's irrelevant, right? where do you fall? Do you think, and maybe why?
Well, I tried for quite a while after my Tourette started getting better. I mean, better is a weird word, but between the medications and the treatments and learning a lot of lifestyle things that I needed to do, like getting enough sleep, eating 3 meals a day, eating healthier, exercising, things like that, and learning to surf the waves with the Tourette's instead of trying to like stand in the ocean and fight it. Because I tried fighting it for years and years and years, and it would just build up so bad that I would be thrashing on the ground and, couldn't see, couldn't do anything for hours. And now that I've learned to just relax and let the ticks flow through and just ride that wave, that one tick goes through and then it's done. And then we wait to catch the next one and ride it. And if I don't fight it, it's not so bad. Now, if I'm in church, say, and that tick I hear coming, might have a bad word in it or something, I'm like, oh, no, 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 I don't want to do that. And so I hold that in, but then once I start holding it in, then next thing you know, I can't see, and then my jaw locks up, and then I start shaking, and then next thing you know, I'm having to hold on to my wife so she can lead me out of church blind in the middle of service because it's fixing to come out anyway now, and I need to get to the van before I'm on the ground shaking and I can't get up and can't nobody pick me up. So like if I hit the ground, I'm staying there until I can get up on my own. And I don't want to do that in a church that we're visiting. So, I get up and leave sometimes. Like that's about the only time I'll do it. Like if it's something ugly that I hear bouncing around and is fixing to come out, sometimes it comes out so fast I don't even know what I said if I wasn't listening. But sometimes I can hear it coming. And I will try and hold in certain ones if I'm around kids or something. And I'll pay for that. Now, if I'm in my recliner, that just means I can't see and I can't speak, and I'll just sit there kind of shaking and seized up, and I'll listen to the TV and relax, and it's not that big a deal. Like if we're somewhere where I'm expected to get up and walk, that's a big deal. Um, but when I was looking for work, because things are better now, they're easier than they were. When I was looking for work, I was always upfront with the fact that I had it. Because my tics are so severe, there's no way I can hide it. There's no way I'm going to make it through a day without them thinking I'm a meth head or something, because I'm constantly twitching and jerking and and clawing and scratching and there's no way I can hide that I have Tourette syndrome. So I'm just going to be straight open about it. And I got nothing. I was even on a TV show trying to help neurodivergent people find a job, and they're setting me up with these softball. No, nobody wants me there. And frankly, I understand it. Like nobody wants to take on hiring somebody full time. That's like, maybe I can drive into work today. Maybe I can't. Maybe I can talk today. Maybe I can't for 3 days. Like I get it. That's not real inclusive to like, yeah, I want to pay him 40 hours a week. But I've been able to build this freelance career around my disability and around my life and from my home and from my recliner, to where most of my clients don't even realize that I have a neurological condition. And when something does rarely happen that comes up and I get behind schedule or something, which almost never happens until here recently, they're surprised to find out that I deal with this, and that, sometimes I've got to text them like, I'm sorry, no pages today. I can't see. And they're like, what happened? I'm like, oh, I didn't realize that you didn't know I have Tourette syndrome and it does XYZ. And my eyes are clamped shut and I just can't see. And, no eyeballs, no drawing. And, and they're shocked to find out. But yeah, I don't bother telling people because it's so rarely an issue in my job now. If it's somebody wanting to take on a big long-term project and they're wanting to do several books and they've got a tight deadline, I will make them aware, because I work so quickly. Sometimes some of these books I've done over the last couple of years, I penciled the entire book in like 2-3 days. And so they'll used to getting page after page after page after page from me. And then if they get nothing for a day or two, they get worried. And so like I want to let those guys know sometimes there will be bad days and I can't get stuff done, but I more than make up for it the rest of the time. But yeah, if I could hide it, I probably wouldn't bother telling people, or I would let them see what a good worker I am and then let them know that I also have Tourette's. But with my Tourette's the way it is, yeah, I let them know straight up. Just like I usually let people know right away when I'm going to be around them for very long, because I'm not going to be able to hide it for very long.
Yeah.
And then you've got to wonder too about hiding your disability, what that does to your subconscious.
I have known people that suppress their tics from everyone at school, suppress their tics from everyone at work, suppress their tics from all of their friends and their parents and their wife. And nobody in their life knows that they have Tourette syndrome. And I'm like,
How?
A, it must be nice to be mild enough to be able to do that to the point that nobody knows. But B, oh, that's got to be so stressful to constantly be suppressing, even if your tics are milder, to be suppressing all day long, like holding your breath all day long, trying to hold in a sneeze all day long.
Yeah.
Like that is so hard. I can't imagine how stressful that must be. But
Never mind what it. Sorry,
I was
go
going to say,
ahead.
you get that mindset of nobody's going to like you if they know you have Tourette's. Everybody's going to make fun of you, and it'll make you hide it, And
Right.
my
And
ex-wife was so hard about it. My son hides his, and it breaks my heart. He still hides it. And I was like, I'm the last person you have to hide it from. But he's got 16 years of conditioning that it's supposed to be hidden, and it breaks my heart.
yeah. So sometimes people's perception and idea in what they think you're capable of, if they know you have a disability, sometimes they judge you beforehand, and they automatically have a great notion about what you're able to do, what you can do. So sometimes it's just easier to hide because they're too immature to understand.
Or they maybe see you as an easy target or someone they can victimize.
Mhm. I Nothing bothers me more than when people are like, oh, poor fish, he's got it so hard. We're not going to ask him to do XYZ.
Just stop.
All the guys at church are going out to the movies, but we're not going to invite fish because bless his heart, he's just got it so hard. It's going to hurt him so bad to go. Ask me, let me decide if it's too much for me. It makes me so frustrated when people trying to decide what I can or can't do. I've had to deal with it like going to shows and stuff, and I will do great at a show. And then after the show, the people putting the show on see how much pain I'm in afterwards. And then they're like, well, that's too much for fish. We don't want to put him through that again. I was like, no, 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 no. You don't get to decide that. I'm going to be in pain either way. I'm going to be ticking either way. I can either be sitting home alone on the weekend cranking out pages in agony, or I can go to your show and make a whole bunch of money and make a lot of friends and meet people and have fun and be in agony. I would rather do that than sit home alone hurting, like I get to pick that. If I'm going to go to the movies and tick and hurt and yep, that's fine. I will do that and I will enjoy it. Or I'm going to go to the movies without you. But like, I'm not going to hide in the house and quit living my life. You can quit inviting me to stuff, but I'm not going to quit going to stuff.
Do you mind if we promote this episode with hashtag bless his heart?
I don't mind at all.
It's a neat thing for him. but because he's visiting me from Canada and I'm in Texas. So around here, we always say bless her heart or bless his heart. And he didn't understand that meant like, oh, poor you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a big thing around.
Yeah. Like only occasionally, like when I say it to my grandbabies, is it genuine. Most of the time it's like, oh, bless his heart. There's so many Southernisms that, like, take some getting used to, but like over yonder and under yonder, and
Yeah.
which around
Anyways,
here are two very different things.
Right.
Fish, it was definitely a blessing to spend this time talking to you and getting to know you and being able to share your journey. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you.
Absolutely. It was a lot of fun. I'm always happy to share, and I can talk all day.
Okay. Okay, have a good day. Bye.
Thank you.